Good morning, and welcome to First Unitarian Universalist Church of Rochester. We're a church of open minds and loving hearts, celebrating many sources of wisdom and many spiritual paths. Your faith, your doubts, your questions, your hopes, your identities are welcome here. Welcome to visitors and newcomers and those online as well. We're glad you're here. After service, join us down in the Commons for refreshments and fellowship, where you can find ways to get connected in the church and community. And we have a special table in the lobby if you missed it last week. It started last week with the makings of an election spiritual survival kit, a booklet of poetry, and an invitation to a daily practice of lighting a chalice and reading a poem to center yourself in these weeks. There's also candles and matches and chalices made and decorated by children of the church. So all are welcome, each household welcome to take what you need for your soul and how to love democracy in these next few weeks. Every Wednesday you can join us for a dinner prepared by cook teams, followed by opportunities for learning and connection, including choir and childcare. This week, following supper, is choir and a conversation at the same time with the location team to share what will be presented to the city for a site plan for our planning for a new church. It's a bird's eye view of how the building and parking lot and layout will be. Nothing particularly brand new from what's been shared in the past, but before that goes to the city, the location team wanted to offer that up as a conversation for any questions and to share what will be presented. So that's at 6 o'clock, and then following that is a very special forum at 7 with Med City Refuge, which is a critical local organization providing affirming care for LGBTQIA plus folks. I hope you can come learn about their work in the community. So supper's at 5:30, choir and site plan conversation at 6, and Med City Refuge Justice Forum at 7 o'clock. All are welcome. It'll be a lovely evening together. Today's offering is for our monthly justice partner, Copal, working to improve lives of Latine people in workers' rights, environmental justice, and more. You can give us a Plates Pass or anytime online. And if you would like to join others in your support of the democratic process, November 3rd after church, folks are invited to gather together to carpool to the Government Center for the last day of in-person early voting, if you don't want to go alone or if you just want something to do that day after church. And whether you are voting that day or not, you can gather with others after that around 1 o'clock at People's Food Co-op for lunch. So that's November 3rd in 2 weeks, right after church, about 12:15. We'll meet in the parking lot here after the 11 o'clock service. All are welcome. And finally, this afternoon, join us at our future location on Viola Road across from Century High School. Trails and maps have been prepared for a beautiful day outside together. And if you'd like to join others for a group trail or hike, you can join at 1 o'clock, but it'll be open from about 12:30 to 3:30, give or take. Folks will be out there to share the trails that have been prepared and maps as well. There'll be two accessible track chairs that will be there for folks to be able to try and learn about as well. So all that will be available today at the Viola Land. All are welcome right after church today. Oh, and you can park. There was a question about this. You can park either in the grassy area, maybe right at the top of the land there on the corner. It's a little bumpy there, or you could park at Century High School and then make your way across the street as well. So I invite you to take a breath as we enter our time of worship with these words from a minister in the 1870s, the Reverend Eliza Tupper Wilkes. May our faith in humanity and our message of hope and good cheer light our way. It's good to be together. In just a moment, I'll gather your attention for our opening hymn, but before that, I invite you to rise in body or spirit and greet those around you and wave to those online. sing it once, the first verse for you. Then we're going to sing together verses 1 through 3 with accompaniment. And then we're going to end again a cappella. The invitation of this song as a spiritual is to pay attention to that which is beyond you, whether you name that spirit or God or mystery or justice or love, and to hush the soul and to take moments of pause to listen to where you're being called to next for a flourishing and beautiful and just and loving world. Maybe give me that chord one more time. Hush, hush, somebody's calling my name. Oh, hush, hush, somebody's calling my name. Hush, hush, somebody's calling my name. Oh my Lord, what shall I do? Will you sing with me? Hush, hush, somebody's calling my name. Hush, hush, somebody's calling my name. Hush, hush, somebody's calling my name. Oh my Lord, what shall I do? Sounds like freedom. Somebody's calling my name. Sounds like freedom. Somebody's calling my name. Sounds like freedom. Somebody's calling my name. Oh my Lord, what shall I do? And the song gets a little louder. Sounds like justice. Somebody's calling my name. Sounds like justice. Somebody's calling my name. Sounds like justice. Somebody's calling my name. Oh my Lord, what shall I do? Hush, hush, somebody's calling my name. Hush, hush, somebody's calling my name. Hush, hush, somebody's calling my name. Oh my Lord, what shall I do?
I've done my label to a map.
Here today, in this place, and with these people, may we listen so that we hear. May we hear so that we can feel. May we feel so that we can know. May we know so that we can change ourselves and this world. May this chalice we light our way. And then we'll receive the offering.
understand them better if you walk a mile, walk a mile in your neighbor's shoes. Walk a mile, walk a mile in your neighbor's shoes. Walk a mile, walk a mile in your neighbor's shoes. You'll understand them better if you do. Walk a mile and see the world you will see. See the world through your neighbor's eyes. See the world you will see. See the world through your neighbor's eyes. See the world you will see. See the world through your neighbor's eyes. So many things you'll come to realize. Walk a mile and live a day in the neighborhood. Live a day in the neighborhood. Live a day in the neighborhood. You'll understand them better if you could, understand them better. You'll understand them better. You'll come away with a different point of view. Walk a mile, see the world, live a day. Walk a mile in your neighbor's shoes, their shoes. Walk a mile.
I'm not going to give much introduction to the story today because I feel like it's going to come all together as you wait. But I will invite you to listen to this story of nothing, written by Nicholas Day and illustrated by Chris Roshka. A pianist walks into a barn. Don't stop him, he's in the right place. Because the barn is also a concert hall, and it is called the Maverick. The pianist's name is David Tudor, and he's there to play an extraordinary new composition by someone named John Cage. David Tudor is an extraordinary pianist, but on this day in 1952, he does not need to be extraordinary at anything. He just needs to do nothing. He sits down at the piano and a bird chirps. A breeze whistles and the audience stirs. And David Tudor does nothing. So now 40 years before David Tudor does nothing, there was a baby born in Los Angeles. And like the barn, this baby had a name, and the baby's name was John Cage. So John Cage, when he grew up, he invented a whole new way of making music. He wrote music in which the only instruments were a dozen radios. He wrote music for drums and told the musicians to use whatever they wanted: tortoise shells, sleigh bells, automobile parts. He attached screws and bolts and wood and just about anything else to the strings of the piano, and then he played the piano. The piano didn't sound like it knew what no meant. The piano sounded like a whole lot of yeses. Though back at the Maverick, A seat squeaked. Throats crumps. The audience stirs, and they wait. They wait for the music. They wait for the part worth listening to, and still David Tudor does nothing. So now John Cage heard things like no one else heard them, and he heard what nothing sounded like. He heard that nothing was never nothing. He heard that there was always something to hear, the sound of yourself beating underneath it all. So back to the Maverick, David Tudor does something. He checks his watch. The rain patters, a tree rustles, the audience stirs, and then David Tudor still does nothing. See, John Cage wanted to write a piece in which people would hear how much something there is in nothing. And that's what David Tudor was doing at the Maverick. He was letting the audience hear what was inside the silence. Back at the Maverick, David Tudor finally does something else. He stands up, and the extraordinary new composition is over. And David Tudor, this amazing pianist, has not played one single note. This extraordinary new composition lasts 4 minutes and 33 seconds, which becomes its title, and signifies 4 minutes and 33 minutes of something, nothing. Because nothing is ever silent. So now in 1952, you go to the concert, and after this performance, some people in the audience were mad. "We have been tricked," they said, and they do not use their inside voices. They write letters to the newspaper, but 4 minutes and 33 seconds is not a trick. And as the years pass, it becomes something unexpected. It becomes a classic. It's performed before thousands of people in concert halls and performed in tiny rooms by rock bands. And every time, the audience hears something different. And that is the genius of 4 minutes and 33 seconds. Because every time, it is written by the listener. The composer does not compose those sounds. The listener finds those sounds, and that listener will be you. You don't need David Tudor. You don't need a barn. You don't need a piano. You just need a mind that is open as big as possible. And then you just need to do nothing. Connie will play the children's benediction. I will meet the kiddos over by the door.
It was the opposite of peaceful at the start. We needed a break from the stressors surrounding us in the spring of 2017. Planning a wedding, planning a move to Minnesota, navigating the feelings and reactions of others for said move to Minnesota, looking for a new job, preparing for graduate school, all while working full-time as educators, and to boot, I was the lead in a play for our local community theater. So in between rehearsals and filling out job applications, my partner and I decided to take a one-night trip getaway, hoping to break up the noise by leisurely exploring someplace new. We ended up 2 hours away in Hannibal, Missouri, home of Mark Twain's boyhood home and museum, and a cave complex that was made famous by Twain's book, The Adventures of Tom Sawyer. Things went well, and after checking out of our Airbnb on the second day, we decided to explore the caves before driving back to the reality that awaited us at home. As we gently spelunked along with our group of 12 to 15 people, weaving along the path, ducking under rock formations, squeezing between the cave walls the deeper we went, we came upon a large opening. The rock ceiling above us was high, and we were able to stand comfortably in our circle as our young tour guide then started to paint an image of Becky Thatcher and Tom Sawyer lost in the cave for days, not having the fortune of the electricity that lit our paths, nor the knowledge of how to safely exit. He then encouraged us to be silent, to imagine what it would be like as he turned off the cave lights for a full minute. Like I said, it was the opposite of peaceful at the start. In fact, after the initial surprise and campiness, I felt a growing fear. My eyes were unable to adjust to see because there was no light for them to adjust to. My ears searched for any sound as they strained in the dark stillness, turning up nothing. I felt myself tense and become uncomfortable as it was an all-consuming silence. And then a kiddo in our group said softly, "Daddy," to which someone replied, "Shh." In that moment, in the quiet, I was reminded how unalone I was, not just in my feelings of discomfort, but in general, as I squeezed my partner's hand, thankful for that kiddo, thankful for the tour guide who was doing a good job, and thankful for the many tourists before me who had done this same minute-long challenge in the darkness. It started to feel peaceful, and then the lights came back on. In times where life seems to be nothing but noise and stress and relentless, agonizing news, I wonder how a reassuring shh to stay silent a little longer would go over for our collective humanity. Because the more life I live, the more that I embrace silence, both in my personal and professional worlds. But I would be remiss to say that every visit with quiet is easy or welcome. It is a skill to tolerate it and a privilege to experience it as sacred. Lessons I am learning over and over again. And while the length of silence can feel clunky, or dare I say, spelunky, I hope to continue to observe or create quiet moments, reminding myself that eventually the light will come back and the opposite of peaceful can transform into a calm stillness if I let it.
Good morning. It's good to be with you. I invite you to settle in here as we create a place of communal caring and connection. It's our time to pause amidst the busyness of our lives, to slow down enough to consider the beauty that is here all around us, and to open a space for listening and love. Here, we honor all who support us in this caring, loving, and all-inclusive ministry. We send gratitude to Sue Nielsen, serving as our caring coordinator, arranging care for our members and friends in need. The members of our caring committee are wonderful examples of our compassionate community, holding us up as we go through challenging and happy times. And life can be challenging. We could all use some extra support with what life throws at us. And if you're experiencing those challenges in your life, we encourage you to reach out for support and help. If you need additional care or personal pastoral care, please reach out to Reverend Luke or myself with that request. In this community, we share pieces of our lives with one another. We do this because all people here have value. Each person's experience matters. We lift up those who are experiencing sadness, illness, or loneliness. May the strength and love in our congregation help guide you. And we revel in those who are experiencing joys in their lives. May their happiness lift us all, and may their joy filter into all around them. This morning, we hold Lisa Talcott in our hearts as she was recently diagnosed with endometrial cancer. She will begin doctoring at Mayo Oncology this November 1st, and as she begins traveling this healthcare journey, we hold her tight. Please keep her in your thoughts. Our immigration justice team shares the sad news regarding Carlos Aquina, who has lost his appeal in court and will be deported back to Ecuador. We hold he and his family and all wrongfully detained in our hearts as we continue to support them and fight for justice. And Jade Joyce shares that she is full of gratitude for the loving care and support of this church community as she recovered from surgery. She appreciates the many cards, yummy meals, visits, rides to appointments, box of hugs, and healing words shared. Love is abundant here, and we wish her continued healing. And we congratulate Grace Pesch and John Przbilski, who were married yesterday here in this church by Reverend Luke. We wish them a lifetime of happiness. Cards of support and well wishes are welcome for all. The Cards of Support list that is compiled weekly contains several members and friends of the church who are experiencing those challenges and happy times, and is posted in the entryway of the church as well as through a link in your e-news. We provide the cards and postage and welcome you to spread well wishes to them in that way. Here, our service to each other, to the world, and to our faith is our focus. Let us carry that out into the wider world. And may the faith in the spirit of life, love for the community of earth, and love for the light in each other be ours now and in all the days to come.
I invite you to take a breath. Breathe deep the breath of life. Feel below you the earth and its ancient turning. Above you the sky, and beyond that the stars shining with their ancient light, holding you in this moment, this breath. You yourself made of earth and stars. Know that in this house you are named and known as beloved, as sacred. Invite you into this time of meditation, this time of prayer, first by sharing silence together. Spirit of life, source of love, God and Gaia of many names and beyond all naming. The noise of any day can be a bit much, more than just the hum of community, but the more troubling noise of a news feed bringing stories that break your heart from half a world away, or the noise as close as your own mind, worried about this hard conversation to have, or this beloved's health or well-being, or your own. There comes a need most days for at least a few moments of silence, not inactivity of the mind and heart necessarily, but an intentional, attentive space, fleeting as it might be, to pause in the rush of to-dos or the breaking news that's always breaking, to let the soul break open a bit, find its grounding, to be ready for whatever is to come next in the next moment or minute or day or season or lifetime. Whatever it might hold, with a little less noise rattling around in the soul, a little more space, hold whatever you are called to hold. We hold in our hearts this day all those who suffer in mind, body, or spirit. I invite you to bring the names you're holding this day in joy or sorrow, celebration or concern, and silently or aloud now in this time to speak their names. For all the names spoken and unspoken, may we all be held in love. These words of meditation are from an interpretation of a poem by Sufi mystic Hafiz. A day of silence can be a pilgrimage in itself. A day of silence can help you listen to the soul play its marvelous lute and drum. Is not most talking some crazed defense of a crumbling fort? I thought we came here to surrender to silence, to yield to light and to happiness, to dance within in celebration of love's victory. May that be so. Amen. In this piece of music, I invite your soul to be the composer as we share this together.
The reading is The Quiet Machine by Ada Limon. I'm learning so many different ways to be quiet. There's how I stand on the lawn, that's one way. There's also how I stand in the field across from the street. That's another way because I'm farther from people and therefore more likely to be alone. There's how I don't answer the phone and how I sometimes like to lie down on the kitchen floor and pretend I'm not home when people knock. There's daytime silent when I stare and nighttime silent when I do things. There's shower silent and bath silent and California silent and Kentucky silent and car silent. And then there's the silence that comes back 1,000,000 times bigger than me, sneaks into my bones and wails and wails and wails until I can't be quiet anymore. That's how this machine works.
We entered a small room. It was a quiet and simple space with chairs set in a circle, enough for 20 or so. The windows of this rented space overlooked the Mississippi River Valley and high bluffs on the other side. An expanse of graceful nature seemingly connected heaven and earth. And this small room that we were in was humbled by the stacking chairs and the simple linoleum floor that was peeling at the edges. A small table of name tags was next to the door, along with a smaller table of coffee and tea, and a glad and warm smile with a welcome and a small bulletin inviting us into communal spiritual practice of silence. It was a time of spiritual exploration for us, having moved states where I was studying for ministry in my Protestant upbringing and finding within a searching for a broader and wider story. Even though the story I grew up with, the Good Shepherd and love of neighbor, was good too. But we took some time with the Quakers in Dubuque, Iowa, a short distance from my Lutheran seminary, and something about the Quaker worship, a spirited silence, drew me in. It was also their expansive theology, kindred spirits with Unitarians and Universalists in many ways. The Quakers, also known as the Religious Society of Friends, and they referred to each other as friend, were rooted in the Radical Reformation, a type of spirituality that leaned into metaphor about God and service and simplicity in living, a simple life for the well-being of all, including deep commitments to pacifism and pluralism. And true to form and history, their style of worship in its most basic form is simple. It's silence, or slightly nuanced, leaving room for the Spirit to speak, not clogging up the spiritual air with doctrine and theology and explanations and words and words and words like a UU preacher does week in and week out, just fills the air, most of it with hot air, but opening up space for the soul and the heart to settle a bit and to center down. And on the rare occasion, some soul may feel moved in that silence, an hour's worth, to speak. And then they are welcome to speak. But my favorite part of learning more as I went to study for a time at Earlham School of Religion, which is a Quaker college and seminary in Indiana, was that each meeting, which is the name of their gatherings instead of congregation or church, they don't have typical westernized leadership or ministers or others, but they have a clerk of the meeting to help organize and hold the time as needed. So if someone gets on their soapbox during silent worship, as if they feel moved by the Spirit to speak, but the clerk decides they've gone a little past the Spirit's prompting in this hour of shared silence, someone then is invited to say, and the clerk would be invited to say, if they go on a bit too long, "Thou art runneth ahead of the Spirit, friend." It means sit down, be quiet. And the corollary is just as wonderful, though, too. If someone in the community is extra hesitant or slow to move towards some action or witness or work for peace or justice, then someone in their circle may say, "Thou art lagging behind the Spirit, friend." I have been so nourished by the Quaker tradition and continue to be, and sometimes I joke with those who have heard it from me before that the only reason I didn't end up among the Quakers and ended up in Unitarian Universalism is that their meetings are silent. They don't have ministers, so there's no health insurance. I don't have other skills I could offer. So I happily found a tradition that employs ministers that still resonated with the same spirituality, just in a different form, and I'm quite happy here. But it has opened me up to many forms of silence, as poet Ada Limon writes, from kitchen floors to cars to the ones a million times bigger than us. Today we experienced a performance piece that maybe took a little arm twisting for Connie to play, not her favorite style of music, silence, but a silent piece by John Cage that Amy read about, which we often joked about as staff during the pandemic, that it was always a fallback piece we could offer with no performance rehearsal time at all. But of course, you know now it's more than that. John Cage wrote to a friend, which was partly in response to critiques of the piece, and he wrote this: "The piece is not actually silent. There will never be silence until death comes," he said. "But it's full of sound, sounds which I did not think of beforehand, which I hear for the first time the same time others hear it. What we hear is determined by our own emptiness, our own receptivity. We receive to the extent we are empty to do so. If one is full, or in the course of its performance becomes full of an idea, for example, that this piece is a trick for shock and bewilderment, then it is just that." This monthly theme of deep listening or deep noticing is a core to spirituality of all kinds. A small Methodist church in Minneapolis, where I interned for a time, has 5 minutes of silence every single week, which may make some of you cringe, and some of you are like, "Oh yeah, where's that Quaker meeting?" And seriously, there is a lovely Quaker meeting in Rochester, because we know silence is not empty. It is an opening. It's a spacious invitation of possibility that might help us notice what matters most beyond just the words. Quaker Rufus Jones wrote, "Silence itself, of course, has no magic. It may be just sheer emptiness, absence of words or noise or music. It may be an occasion for slumber, or it may be a dead form. But it may also be an intensified pause, a vitalized hush, a creative quiet, an actual moment of meeting with God or the holy with what we can do with our human life on earth." I love those phrases, a vitalized hush, a creative quiet. Some scientists and medical practitioners focused on brain research talk about this as limbic resonance, where the experience in physical shared space has a chemical embodied reaction and impact on your mind, your heart, your emotions. There's something different when you are together in shared space rather than distant. Be it for music or performance or plays, be it for Lynx basketball, Game 5 tonight, or in silent worship, all of it holds different impacts for connection. And silence is one of the hardest things to find in a frenetic world. at least a type of silence that connects you in community. Last idea I'd like to offer before we share just a brief moment of silence, not a Quaker length of silence, but what the Quakers call a covered meeting. Thomas Kelly spoke of it like this. He said, "In the practice of group worship on the basis of silence, there come special times when the electric hush and solemnity and depth of power steals over us. A blanket of divine covering comes over the room, a stillness that can be felt by all, and the worshipers are gathered in some type of unity or synthesis of life." He said, "A quickening presence pervades us, breaking down some part of the privacy and isolation of our individual lives and the blending of spirits within a super-individual life, and power emerges." He said, "It's a dynamic presence that enfolds us, nourishes us, speaks glad comfort. It's as if the burning bush has been kindled right in our midst, and we gather on holy ground." In these moments of silence, may your soul find such holy ground. The hymn is "Winds Be Still." I invite you to rise in body or spirit as we sing.
Still,
I invite you, as you're comfortable, place a hand on your heart or toward the sky or earth in gratitude. May you find time and space to let the quiet things around you speak, like the creak of a ceiling and a roof, like the breath of your neighbor, like this silence now. Amen.